everyone, welcome to another episode of Mrs. Cheung's ISO Inspo. Thank you to everyone who sent in their beautiful pics of their reflection name art. They looked amazing, and I just loved that a lot of you put your own personal spin on that. Well, today we are going to be doing a version of Kandinsky art. So Kandinsky was a famous artist who had this famous painting that was made out of circles. I'm going to show you what that looks like. Okay, so here are some examples, and we've got someone who's making a guest appearance today.
Mrs. Bradotti. Hey, cool cats and kittens. So this is the original artwork by Wassily Kandinsky. Was that a drum roll? And Mrs. Cheung is going to show you her own interpretation of this artwork, and it looks beautiful. So stay tuned.
So here is the original Wassily Kandinsky, and it's a colour study of squares with some concentric circles. Now, concentric just means that they are circles that share the same centre. So this actually wasn't done by students. This is actually a famous artwork. So what you need to do today's artwork is you will need a piece of paper. Any size will be fine, so it doesn't need to be A3 or A4. Any size will do. Now, I do not want your paper to be landscape today. I'm going to ask you to put it in a portrait way. So this is portrait, so this is the way that we would have our paper if we were going to draw maybe a portrait of someone or someone's face. But today we are actually making a vase of flowers. Now, we are going to start with the flowers. So we're not going to do the vase, we're doing the flowers first. And what you're going to need is whatever you have at home. So Mrs. Cheung's house looks like Spotlight mixed with Officeworks and a bit of the Reject Shop. So I have everything at my disposal, but what you have at home may differ. So I have got oil pastels. If you don't have oil pastels, crayons are fine. I have a whole array of different oil pastels, and I also have watercolor textures. Now, you may not have watercolor textures, so you may have just normal textures, Sharpies, or you might even have aquarelle pencils, those watercolor pencils. So any of those are fine. But what we're going to start off with is we are going to start off with our textures. So we are going to do 8 circles. Well, not circles, we're going to do 8 little dots. So I'm going to start off with my texture. You can come nice and close and have a look. I'm going to spread them out because these are going to turn into flowers. Colour in. Now I'm looking for about 6, 7 or 8 circles. So depending on how big your piece of paper is, but we want to keep our circles up the top of our piece of paper because this is where the vase is going to go. So nice and close. So here are my 8 dots or spots. Yeah, I'd say spots. And now I'm going to start drawing some circles using my textures around my spots. So if I have an orange dot, I'm not going to use orange to do a circle, so I'm going to use a different color. So here we go. Now, I'm not happy with just doing a thin line. I'm going to try to make it a little bit thicker. So I might do another circle and then color that in. This does not have to be perfect. In fact, the more irregular it is, probably the better. Here's another one. Here we go. Nice and thick over this side. It's nice and thin over here. Fill in my gaps. Also, you might want your oval sort of shapes to go this way as well, so they don't have to go up and down. Okay, notice how they're not perfect circles. I'm going to go around again like this, neaten it up a little bit, colour in, colour in. So this is what it should look like when it is finished. Now, if you come nice and close, what you will realise is that some of them have 2 circles around my spot. This one has 2 circles, this one has 2 circles. This one here and this one here have 3 circles Okay, you can go right up to 4 circles, depending on how much room or how large your circles are. But this has been done in just textures. And now comes the fun part where we get to mix our media with something else. Now we're going to switch to crayons or pencils or oil pastels. Oil pastels preferably because they're softer and they come brighter and darker. But we're going to use that now to fill in the gaps. And now you're going to start seeing that they look like the same concentric circles that you saw in Kandinsky. So next, I'm going to show you how we fill in our white spaces, because most of you know, especially if you've been in my class, that white spaces are my enemies. And I don't like to have any white spaces left at the end. So now I'm going to use my oil pastels. I'm going to go now and fill in the gaps. Now this artwork should not take you one day or one lesson. You should space this out over maybe 2 days or even 3 days if you really want to do a good job. So maybe get up to this point and then stop. And then the next day you can start with the colouring in of the gaps. So I'm going to use my oil pastels and I'm going to go here. I'm going to go around this dot here and I'm going to go around. Now remember, you might think I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, but with art, sometimes it's the imperfections that will make it actually look different or unique. Now I'm going to get another colour. Of course, I'm not going to put lilac next to purple because they're too similar. We want them to contrast. So try to put your colours near colours that they don't really match well with. We want them to be like opposite colours. So purple doesn't look anything like yellow. Okay, it might be a little bit too close to blue. So try and think about that. Don't just use any old colour. We want to see what looks the most effective. I also think it looks really effective to go around the outside of your texture so that your outside of your flower, because just remember these are supposed to be flowers because I've put my own spin on this artwork. See how that line is not perfect and not neat? That's the effect that I'm going for. Now, when you colour all of those circles in, it will look a little bit like this one here. This is one I have prepared a little bit earlier. And now we get to add these funky little leaves in. Now notice that my leaves are not the same shape. They're not all the same size. They're not even all the same color. So that is going to make it look a lot more interesting. So here is a green. Check out how I'm going to do my leaf, okay? Now just remember, leaves are something that are natural, okay? You're not gonna find a perfectly symmetrical leaf. So I might do one that just goes like this. Have a look at that weird wonky shape, but somehow Mrs. Cheung is going to make it work and look beautiful. Now I'm going to put my line in the middle, and then I'm also going to add my lines in. Just remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. The other thing that makes it look great is if I get a different colour green, and at the end I'm going to go around my leaf. Okay, it's all this extra little detail that at the end makes your artwork stand out and look amazing. Have a look at that. Now you will notice some of the spaces are white, but that's because Mrs. Cheung has been a little bit sneaky. I have actually used white oil pastel. So some of you are probably wondering, what do I do with that white crayon or that white pencil that I never use? Well, this is the artwork where you can use it, because at the end when we paint, that white is going to make it stand out. Okay, so now we are on to the vase. So I have now sketched a couple of vases for you to have a pick. So you can pick your vase or your vase. You can go for something that's a little bit weird and wavy, or you can go for something that's really simple and that is straight up and down. Any shape is going to look fantastic in the end when it's all painted and it's all finished and it's all colored. Okay, so now I'm going to show you this lovely cushion. This is Mr. Hines's cushion. Is this from your bedroom, Mr. Hines?
Well, lounge room, but yeah.
It's from your lounge room. Oh, okay. Because I was imagining your room to be pink like mine was in the first video. That wasn't my room. So here I have some examples of vases or vases. Now, for some of you that may not know what that is, I'm talking about what the flowers go into when we keep them alive with water. Okay, so think of like a long jar. Okay, maybe you've got one at home that you would like to go and get. You can put it in front of you on a table, and maybe you can sketch that shape if you're feeling confident or maybe even a little bit unsure. So just have a go. If you're finding it really hard to make yours look realistic, okay, step one is to sketch very, very lightly with a pencil. And my other tip would be to stick to something like this or like this. Notice that the bottom line is a tiny bit curved and a tiny bit curved. Otherwise, it's just going to look like a rectangle, and we want it to look a teensy-weensy bit realistic and maybe a little bit more 3D. So now for my vase, I have chosen blue. Okay, you can choose any color at all. It's completely up to you, but I'm going to do blue for mine. And I have very, very lightly, if you come really super close, I have sketched. Now you'll notice there's a couple of lines there because I wasn't happy with my first line. That's why sketching is important. Now I'm going to go over the line that I liked the most. Okay, so I liked that line there and I liked that line there. Now you'll notice that mine is a nice round shape. Okay, now what to do at the bottom? Well, just continue it till it meets. And I'm happy with that. Now you don't even have to draw the line up the top. It's up to you. You might want to draw the line up the top, or you might just want to leave it. I'm going to leave mine today because my artwork is quite abstract. This is not what real flowers look like. It would be pretty cool if they did look like this, but notice how the leaves aren't even touching anything. They're just floating around. That's all cool. That's what we want. That's the effect that I'm going for. But I think my vase looks a bit plain, so I'm going to, notice how I keep going from vase to vase because I'm not sure what word you guys use, so I'm just flipping and flopping back and forth. So now I'm going to do a pattern. My pattern is going to be easy. This is where a lot of people would probably ruin their artwork by going a little bit too adventurous with your pattern. So let's stick to something simple. I'm going to do just little V's. Okay, so down, up, down, up, down, up. You might want to do like little dots. Keep it simple. You might want to do little crosses, up to you. But watch Mrs. Cheung, I'm going to go, this is super easy. V, V, V. V for Vicks and a V for Vapor Rub. Okay, just spread them out. It doesn't have to be too perfect. I know. You all think I'm perfect, but guess what? I'm not. Don't tell my husband that. All right, now, V, V, V. Fill it all in so it's nice and patterned. You're, of course, going to do it a little bit slower than me. There we go. Ta-da! Okay, so now we are going to start adding a little bit more colour, but first of all, remember those white crayons that I told you about? The ones that never seem to get any shorter because we hardly use them. Well, I'm going to use mine for the background of this artwork, and all I'm going to do is scribble. So just have a look. I'm going to do a little bit of scribble over here, a little bit of scribble over there, a little bit of scribble around here. Scribble, scribble, scribble. I can't see what I'm doing because it's white, but that's okay. Scribble, scribble, scribble. Scribble around here. Now I'm not going to go in between all of these spots. I'm just going to leave that. Now Notice that I've put newspaper down. This is a great idea to protect the tables at home or your desk. I wouldn't suggest doing anything with paint on carpet. So go outside. Outside would be a great idea. So if you spill anything, it's just on the concrete or the tiles. Now I'm going to use just some water because remember I told you that my textures were watercolor textures. If I paint over those with a little bit of water, it will start to bring those colors out. Now you can paint over normal textures too because they will go a little bit smudgy. We don't usually paint over our textures, do we? But this is an artwork that requires a little bit of a smudgy effect. So water, 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 nice and generous. Don't worry too much. And now we are going to go on to our vase or our vase. Here is some vegetable dye in water. So I don't know what sort of paints you have at home. You might have watercolors, you might have acrylics, but what you need for this artwork is something that's very watery. So I suggest water it right down. So put some paint in, put lots of water, make it nice and runny. Have a look at how runny mine is. It's super duper runny. Okay, I'm going to use my paintbrush. I'm going to give it a bit of a squeeze with my fingers because I can. And now I'm going to paint my vase. Now remember there's no top of my vase, so it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to go right up to the flowers there. Painting, painting. The thing I like about oil pastels is that you can't really go over it with the paint. It repels the paint because it's made out of oil. And the majority of our paint is water. So if oil repels the water, it means it fights against it. And you can still see it. Look, I'm painting right over that leaf. Look at that. And I can still see the edge nice and crisp and cleanly. Okay, I'm going to do my vase just up to there and I'm stopping. Okay, I'm going to give that a rinse, 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 or I'm just going to grab another one. Now I'm going to do my background. I've chosen two colours for my background. I've chosen a little bit of red and a little bit of pink. Frankly, I think that green is the best background, but I didn't have any green today because Mrs. Cheung has misplaced her dyes and this is all I had. So I'm just going to be resourceful. Now remember that white crayon that we used earlier. This is when we get to see it. Let's see if it works. Aha, there it is. Oh, it's magic. I'm just going to do a little bit of red here. Notice how I'm just doing it in little blobs. Here, there, and everywhere. You can go right up to your circles. Look at that. I'm not even being super duper careful because this oil pastel is just fighting off that water. Look at that. Dun, 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 dun. Now just remember that art should be relaxing. If you're having a meltdown or a tantrum as you do your artwork, that's not what I want. I want you to be relaxed. I want you to be experimenting. Let's try the pink. Oh, that's a bit darker. Look at that. Nice. Just for a little bit of interest. You don't have to do two different colours for your background. It is completely up to you. Remember, I don't want your artwork to look like Mrs. Cheung's artwork. This is just inspiration for you. But what you need to do is make your artwork your own. Okay, we want it to be unique. So get your ideas from me, follow my instructions by all means, but don't try to make yours look exactly like mine. We want it to be different. That's what art is. Being different, expressing ourselves, relaxing. There we go. Now if I pick that up, that's going to just run everywhere. So maybe I'll show you what it looks like when it is dry. You can get a kitchen towel and you can blot it very carefully. But you know what? I think I'm just going to let this one dry naturally in the sun. So I'll take it outside. Hi everyone, I'm back home now, and when I got home today I was inspired to keep experimenting with my Kandinsky art. So I just wanted to show you what my finished artwork ended up looking like, and also two more examples. One that I decided to do with acrylic paints, putting in maybe a little bit more effort and a little bit more detail, and also one that my daughter did with a pastel color theme. So I just wanted to share those with you and show you the finished results. So here is the artwork that I completed today and that you saw from start to finish. And then here is one that my daughter's done. She's decided to use more pastel colors, and this one's been done with acrylic paints. And here is the pièce de résistance. This is my acrylic version with, as you can see, a lot more shading, a lot more detail. I've also added some little berries in here, some different shades. So this is maybe a little bit more advanced, but you can put as much effort into it as you would like. And like I said, this one here, which is very imperfect, and even if you notice the crooked lines, okay, a little bit of overlapping, it still looks really super effective. So guys, have a play around, and like I mentioned with the last activity, please take some photos and send them to your teachers. We'd really love you to share. Check out the moon tonight. It has a ring around it, just like the Kandinsky art that we did today. That's awesome. All right, see you next time, guys.